Hey, welcome into Candlestick Chronicles, a 49ers podcast on the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I'm Kyle Madsen. I write about the 49ers over at NinersWire.com, part of the USA Today Sports Media Group. Joining me right now, as always, Chris Biederman, of the
What's
Sacramento Bee. I forgot I had to do a bit, and I messed it up like a dunce. We're sponsored by Lamb Chops, sglambchops.com. Follow me on Instagram at sglambchops for all their latest styles.
You sound so upset.
I am. I botched it. I had a really good bit and I just screwed it up. No, but you know who's not screwing stuff up? Lamb Chops. You can check out all their latest styles on Instagram at sglambchops, at their website at sglambchops.com. It's hoodie season, man. Go get yourself a sick ass Lamb Chops hoodie. I wear mine, one of my two, basically every day. They're just in constant rotation. They're super comfortable, super high quality, and most importantly, Chris, they look dope.
They look super dope, which is the important thing. I'm wearing a Lamb Chops shirt right now. For those watching on the YouTube channel, they can see it. I've mentioned it before, but man, this extra thick little material is perfect for the fall. Daylight savings time has come and gone, so it is now officially time to really lean into the warmer clothing, particularly here in Sacramento. And so loving my Lamb Chops clothes as always. The t-shirts this time of year, chef's kiss, they're perfect.
Get yours at sglambchops.com. Use promo code candlestick20 for 20% off your order today. We are also sponsored by Cooperage Brewing. CooperagBrewing.com is the website there. You can order a case of beer. If you're 21 or over and in the state of California, they will ship it directly to your front door. And there's nothing better than going out to sign for a package, and it is 24 beers of something that you know is going to be delicious. Maybe you get the Candlestick Chronicles Hazy IPA. Maybe you want a Pilsner. Maybe you want something a little darker for the colder weather. I know I love a dark beer this time of year. So whatever your beer taste, Cooperage has it. And Chris, we all know it's going to be delicious.
Absolutely. The quality is just incredible. Tastes really good. It's both refreshing and tasty. We're doing wedding planning right now, and people are asking us what we want to do keg wise, and we're like, we got the kegs handled. We're bringing some coop. We're looking at potentially next fall, so hopefully we'll be able to serve, it's easy for me to say, some Candy Cron at the nuptials, which
that'd be so
ideal.
sick.
That would be ideal, really. We're pushing hard for it. So, but yeah, I mean, if you know, is there any bigger endorsement than like being positive what beer you're having at your wedding?
Not at all.
I think that's
there's not one.
So.
I didn't even know. I had no idea.
Yeah,
it ruined my night. Honestly, no. Just going in, I'm like, I don't know. I'm so unsure, and people are like, it's gonna be fine. I'm like, I don't know what beer I mean. No. Yeah. Candlestick Chronicles would be a great beer to have at a wedding. Super drinkable, super delicious, as all of Cooperage's beers are. So head to cooperagebrewing.com or go visit the brewery out there in Santa Rosa. Really great spot, secluded, quiet. The vibes are great. Good outdoor seating if you want to bring a dog. Always a good food truck, and really good people there as well. So go visit Cooperage or cooperagebrewing.com today. Let's talk about the 49ers after the bye week. Here we go. Space for intro. I need a whiteboard just to hold up so people can see on the stream that we're just waiting so Tyler can drop in an intro for us, for those of you listening on the pod. Yeah, good weekend for the 49ers, despite the fact they didn't play. The NFC West, Chris, went 0-3. So the 49ers back in first place in the NFC West.
Not terribly surprising.
Thanks to a tiebreaker over the Seahawks.
Yeah, you knew Arizona playing a rookie quarterback was going to have a tough time in Cleveland. You knew the Rams not having Matt Stafford, they were going to have a tough time winning. They would have had a tough time winning with Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
And the Seahawks kind of had like a little bit of an upset alert going into that game. I thought the Seahawks might be able to hang tough with the Ravens, but the Ravens are just a buzzsaw right now. Like the Ravens,
they're really good.
Just like sneaking like under the radar, at least to this point, right? Have kind of been under the radar. I think right now they are like very much in the thick of the discussion for best team in the NFL.
Yes.
And they just really put it on the Seahawks, like blowout city.
And it was
Like,
never
there wasn't-
close.
No.
They've done this now to the Seahawks and Lions. Right about the time it's like, oh, hey, watch out for the Lions. Nope, thumped by the Ravens. Seahawks, it's like, oh, hey, watch out. Here come the Seahawks. Thumped by the Ravens. And not even close, man. That game was so disappointing.
Yeah, I was hoping for a little bit more from it.
I have some stats. The NFC West this weekend scored 6 points. They got outscored 84-6. They racked up a grand total of 396 yards between the three teams. That's 132 yards per team. They averaged 2.6 yards per play. They ran 150 plays collectively and gained less than 400 yards. Just a
Not
beatdown.
great.
Yikes.
It's not great.
I kind of think the Ravens are going to win the Super Bowl.
I mean, they might. So
I just
the
don't know what
Niners-
you do with it. I just don't know what you do with them.
The Niners, despite losing 3 straight games, still have the best point differential in the NFC.
Wild.
For whatever that's worth. Baltimore, the Niners are at plus 78. Baltimore's at plus 115. So the Niners still actually third best point differential in the NFL. The Bills are plus 80, and they're 5-4 currently outside the playoff picture in the AFC. They're the 9 seed
Jeez.
at the moment. So
The Bills are a weird team. I
they
can't
are
figure
very-
them out.
They're a weird team. I tend to think they're good, but maybe not elite given all the injuries they've had on defense.
Yeah.
But Josh Allen can go beat anybody in any given day.
Including the Bills.
That's fair too. But yeah, I mean, overall, a really, I mean, you go on your bye and you have your 3 divisional rivals all lose. Like it's about as good as it gets for the Niners.
Yeah, so they're back in first in the NFC West, and they get the tiebreaker. It doesn't matter in week 9. They play the Seahawks twice still. So like but the clear cut thing to me was the Rams aren't going to hang around. And at 3-6, they're probably out of the division race by now. So the Rams are out of it. It's a 2-horse race between the Niners and Seahawks, and I don't think there was really ever a ton of doubt that was going to be the case. But that's kind of where we're sitting at the halfway point. So
You look at the standings, and like Detroit came into the season as kind of like a hyped up team. There aren't really any surprising teams currently in the playoff picture, really in either conference. Like maybe Houston at 4-4, but like otherwise, like I don't know, is Washington really surprising at 4-5? I don't know, but it's going through the NFC standings right now. Philadelphia 1 seed, Detroit, 49ers, Saints, Seahawks, Cowboys, Vikings.
if you had
It's all kind of teams you would expect to be in that mix.
if somebody had predicted this to be the standings at the end of the year, I don't think anybody would have blinked.
No, none of this is surprising. There's no wow team.
And there's
Typically,
no team
one
that
or
was
two
supposed to be
wow
good that's bad.
I would say the New York Giants are pretty awful.
I didn't expect them to be good though.
Yeah,
They're
they won
worse
a
than I
playoff-
thought they would be for sure. But I wasn't like, oh man, then watch out for the Giants this year.
They won a playoff game last year.
Yeah, they sure did.
I would have figured they'd be like right in the mix, not 2-7.
Yeah,
But they have had some injuries. So
yeah.
but even I mean the AFC, Kansas City, Baltimore, Jacksonville, Miami, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Cincinnati. It's like it's
you
pretty like blue blooded on both sides of the bracket here.
Cincinnati's 5-3 and last in their division right now.
Yeah,
That's tough.
all
yeah,
4
the entire-
AFC North teams are in the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
It's kinda wild.
Yeah. It's just insane to me that Kansas City, despite whatever the hell they have going on over there on offense, is still just 7-2 and in the 1 seed.
I am all in on a KC Baltimore AFC Championship game.
Me too.
Sign me up.
But get me a better version of the Chiefs offense. I need them to get like a little better first before I'm all in on that game.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So the Niners got some good news at practice on Monday. They had a bonus practice coming off the bye. Deebo Samuel came back. Still no sign of Trent Williams. But I would say Debo more or less. I mean, he basically confirmed it last week when he told Kay Adams that he was going to be good to go.
Yeah.
But what's your initial thought about having Debo Samuel and just what he could bring on Sunday in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think Debo Samuel's pretty good. And no, here's some different ways I think they can actually use him. What if they put him at running back?
Oh,
No.
interesting.
Yeah, just throwing wrinkles out here. Positionless football is what I call it. Catch the wave. No, I mean, Debo's such a, like, how many times have we talked about Debo Samuel being a tone setter for the Niners offense?
Mm-hmm.
And I think they obviously missed Trent Williams in the run game, but Debo's gravity is, I think, something that can't really be quantified. Just when he goes in motion, how the defense reacts is different than when Ray McLeod goes in motion, or Willie Snead, or whoever is in for Debo. So I think just getting him back will help the Niners just schematically, not to mention the ways he can impact the passing game and his ability to make tough contested catches and what he can do in the run game on the jet sweeps and just the straight handoffs and setting that kind of physical tone that I think the Niners have really been missing on both sides of the ball over the last couple of weeks. So, yeah, I'm you'd rather have Debo than not.
Yeah, I mean, his toughness more or less embodies like this team's personality.
Their
Right? Like
ethos.
I mean, he kind of embodies the 49ers just in general, particularly on the offensive side, given his versatility, right? Like that's when the 49ers are playing their best football offensively, they can beat you in a bunch of different ways from a bunch of different directions. And Debo kind of embodies that, not only with his physicality, but with his versatility to play receiver and running back. And I do think there's an element of juice that he brings to the team when he's just out there. Like, you're going to have a dude who's going to try to run through everyone's face, and like you're going to get maximum effort on every single play, and really take it to defenders, and a guy who's not really scared of anything. So I think that stuff has, intangible effects. Intangibly, like you said, he's just another playmaker that they need. I am really curious to see what happens with Trent Williams, because it didn't sound like he was ever close to playing. If you sort of read between the lines and listen to Kyle Shanahan talk about it, going into the Cincinnati game, like they were leaving the door open, but it just never got better. And for Trent not even to be on the field on Monday, I know it's like
he didn't even warm up on Sunday.
Yeah, like that's a little. It indicates he's not super close. So Trent is not somebody who typically practices Wednesdays, so it's not entirely surprising that he wouldn't practice on Monday. But if he doesn't practice Thursday or Friday, given that it has been 3 or 4 weeks now since he's played, I have a hard time seeing them playing Trent Williams without him just like loosening up the ankle a little bit.
Yeah.
During the week in practice. It's not like, it's one thing if you like sprain your ankle and then you don't practice the week after that, and then you play in the following game. It's another thing to take like a month off and then return to a game without practicing. So I think it'll be a really telling week in terms of Trent Williams' injury status to see if he practices, Thursday, Friday. Because I think he's been off too long to simply say, yeah, you don't need to practice this week. Just go in there on Sunday. I think he's got to do a little bit on the practice field, I would think.
Yeah, I man, it's just, if he doesn't play this week, you start to get really concerned, like long term, because now you're looking at, he got hurt in 6, so that's 7, 8, 9, so that'd be 4 weeks out that he hadn't played, and that to me says there's might be something more going on than just a low ankle sprain, because when Shanahan first mentioned it, it sounded like, yeah, he might miss a week. And now it's reached a point where if he doesn't play this week, he's missing 4 weeks and he's not practicing at all. And they thought rest was going to make it better, and it's clearly not. So I think it's a huge week for Trent Williams, because I can't imagine they're still just like, oh yeah, no, we'll just kind of let him sit and see how this thing plays out. Like there's clearly something wrong if he doesn't go.
Yeah, part of me too wonders if they're looking at like the upcoming schedule. They have at Jacksonville this week. They host the Buccaneers November 19th. And then it goes Seahawks, Eagles, Seahawks. So I'm wondering if maybe they're thinking like, if he's not 100%, let's not risk it, and let's make sure we have our guy as close to 100% as possible for the week 12 through 14 stretch when it goes Seahawks, Eagles, Seahawks.
Might not matter by that point.
I mean, they're 5-3. Worst case, they'd be 5-5.
Yeah.
So I mean, they wouldn't be out of it at 5-5. Is my point.
They'd be out of the 1 seed at 5-5 for sure.
Well, they'd be out of the 1 seed.
Yeah. I kind of think they're already out of it. I don't know that Philly's going to lose 3 games.
We'll see. Injuries happen. It didn't feel like the Niners would ever lose 3 games in a row.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Too. So
as of right now, it doesn't feel like Philly's going to lose 3 games. But
let's look at the Eagles' schedule.
Dallas not closing out the Eagles hurt the Niners pretty bad. Because if you could stay within a game of Philly where you can beat them and then be tied and have the tiebreaker in head-to-head, that would have been great. But now they're 2 games back. So they got to make up a game somewhere and then beat Philly. It's just tough.
It's interesting. So the
Dallas stinks.
I'm pretty much as far out on Mike McCarthy.
Could not be. I have never watched the end of a Mike McCarthy game and been like, wow, that's well managed. Yeah. McCarthy coached his ass off.
He's about as average as a coach as there is in the league, and he's a detriment to an elite team. Maybe he can uplift a bad team, but he's a detriment to a good team.
He had Prem Aaron Rodgers and won 1 Super Bowl. Come on, man.
That was 13 years ago.
Right.
14 years ago.
He's still riding that.
Right. The Eagles are on their bye this week. So let Jalen Hurts get a little bit healthy. But then they have at Kansas City, home to Buffalo, and then home to the Niners. So there's a chance. I mean, there's a chance that the 49ers can still catch them. And then they go at Dallas, at Seattle. And then they finish up with kind of a cupcake schedule. They got Giants, Cardinals, Giants the last 2 weeks of the season. So, yeah, I mean, this stretch here for both these teams is gonna be really interesting in terms of how the 1 seed shakes out. So I haven't even looked at the Lions schedule, but
let's look right now.
Lions have their bye this week?
Yeah, the Lions were also on a bye this week.
Yeah, okay.
The Lions have the Chargers. They're at the Chargers. Then home Bears, home Packers, at Saints, at Bears, home Broncos, at Vikings, at Dallas, home Vikings.
Maybe the
Lions might lose like 1 game the rest of the year.
The Lions might be the 1 seed.
I kind of think the Lions are going to be the 1 seed. Do you trust Dallas in a primetime game on December 30th against a playoff team? I sure don't.
Really.
The Lions are winning out. The Lions aren't losing again. The Lions might lose 1. I've got the Lions losing 1 game. Don't ask me which one. Just pick one, and that's the one they'll lose.
Yeah, I mean, they have 5 road games. 5 road games left, and 4. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. They have a stretch there where they have 4 road games in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Although
and the last one's at Dallas.
Yeah, 2 of them are at Chicago and at Minnesota, so it's not like they're flying cross country. But
do they even fly to Chicago? Do you think? His bus.
Yeah. That's a long bus ride. That's a long bus ride. I think teams only do it if it's like 2 hours or so.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, the Lions might not lose again. I think the Niners are going to be the 3 seed. That's where I'm at heading into week 10.
Yeah, I could see it.
Ask me for an update after week 10.
I could see it.
Yeah.
I have some Jaguars thoughts.
Sure.
Watch the Steelers game. Not a whole lot to glean from it because the weather was bad, and Mitch Trubisky played the entire second half for Pittsburgh. But I do think their defense is really good. And looking at the numbers, like their defense is 3rd in DVOA. EPA per play, since I'm a big
you big love EPA per play.
Yeah, big advanced metrics guy. They're also 3rd in EPA per play defensively. They have talent on the edges with Josh Allen and Trent Baalke's first overall pick, whose name is eluding me at the
Trayvon
moment.
Walker.
Trayvon Walker, thank you. But
who stinks.
Well, I don't know that he stinks. He's not like an elite player, but
Correct.
he's still a good player. His talent, like I could definitely see him walking Jalen Moore back into back into Brock Purdy a
Yeah,
couple
that's a good
times
point.
at
Yeah,
least.
that's a good point.
But offensively, I think it's going to be a really interesting game for the 49ers because Trevor Lawrence is good, but he gets rid of the ball really fast, and their
Hmm.
offensive line is not any good. But Trevor Lawrence is really good at getting the ball out quickly, which has been the Niners' kryptonite in recent weeks. And he's also really good against the zone, as our buddy Nick Wagner pointed out on Twitter in his breakdown. If you're not checking out Nick's lengthy tweets where he does scouting reports and statistical breakdowns of
It's really cool.
upcoming opponents, you should definitely check those out. But just him mentioning that like Trevor Lawrence is really good against zone coverage and less good against man, while the
Hmm.
Niners are clearly better in zone coverage and less, like
Hmm.
it's one of those like something's got to give type situations.
Sure.
And the game is going to go a long way towards sort of exemplifying this paradox that the 49ers find themselves in where they have like an elite pass rush, but it's sort of negated by the fact that teams that get rid of the ball quickly, or quarterbacks who get rid of the ball quickly, do
Hmm.
well against them at negating the pass rush. So Steve Wilkes having the bye and having the extra time to scout out the Jaguars, is it going to be an opportunity for the Niners defense to make Trevor Lawrence hold on to the ball a little bit longer and
Hmm.
allow the pass rush to get there? Or is it going to be a game where he's just 1-2 out, 1-2 out, like
Right.
every time he drops back to pass? And Travis Etienne's good. Like he's a really nice pass catcher for them. He's a pretty good running back. But
Hmm.
again, their offensive line stinks, yet they still are able to field a pretty competent offense without having a good offensive line. So
Yeah,
it's
Trevor
gonna
Lawrence is really
be
good.
it's gonna be a unique challenge for the Niners in the sense that like this is the type of offense that has given them problems this year.
And that's where the Chase Young edition just has to come into play right away. Like this can't be another game where like the Rams game comes to mind, where it was just underneath routes and drag routes and just taking advantage of zone coverage and taking advantage of soft coverage and just receivers getting open without getting touched. So, I mean, they made an adjustment in the second half there and they started blitzing more. They played tighter coverage and just kind of closed the windows up a little bit. Is that something they do from the jump, or are they still going to try and get home with four? And if they do, what does it look like? I'm I don't know. I'm skeptical though about how different the defense is going to look post bye, but maybe Chase Young helps. Maybe Chase Young is freeing up Bosa and Hargrave, and they're getting Lawrence off of his spot and making him uncomfortable, and they look like the Niners defense again. But like you said, tough matchup out the gate, especially because Jacksonville's coming off their bye as well. No rest
Yeah, and
advantage for the 49ers.
yeah. So the Niners defense hasn't been particularly good on third down or opponent red zone scoring this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Jacksonville's offense has not been good in those categories either.
Yeah.
So if the Niners do play well, I think the version of them playing well is being good on third down and being good in the red zone. And
Mm-hmm.
that really could be the determining factor. Not to get all football guy and talk about the importance of scoring touchdowns in the red zone, but
You know what
like
else I think is going
that
to be important?
is it the turnover battle?
Boy, you read my mind.
Okay, I was gonna say I think a key to the game is going to be wanting it more. Whoever wants it more is really gonna
You know,
come out
as
on
long
top here.
as as long as the 49ers can establish a run, I
Mm.
think that's going to be key.
Yeah, I mean to that point though, like I know you're it's kind of a bit, but like the Niners have not proven that they can win a game when the run game struggles this
Good
year.
point. Yep.
So I would say if there's a fair criticism of Brock Purdy, it's that have a big game and a winning game when the running game is not there, because it hasn't been there the last 3 weeks, and
Yeah.
it feels like the Niners offense has been a shell of itself. So that is one thing that I'll always keep my eye on with any Kyle Shanahan offense to this point. Like, can it function without the running game being sort of the spine of the offense,
Yeah.
which it feels like it still is. And that's obviously when you have Christian McCaffrey, you feed him, but like they need to figure out ways to win, particularly if they don't have Trent Williams, by moving the ball through the air more efficiently and more effectively, throughout the game without having to rely so much on play action and all of that.
Yeah, totally. I have a Chase Young thought.
Okay.
I think he's host. He's wearing number 92.
Not a good number, man.
It's a bad number. It's not a good number. And so the reason he couldn't wear a single digit is because he's not listed as a linebacker. Randy Gregory is. So that's why he can wear 5. Chase Young's listed as a defensive lineman, so he does not have the single digits open to him. So he had to choose from just a random number in the 90s.
There wasn't anything in the 50s?
It was 56 available. 56 might have been available. I don't think anyone's wearing 56 unless they're on the practice squad.
We need to send a sternly worded email to somebody.
No, I totally agree.
Randy Gregory on the Niners roster still does not have a number listed to his name. So
that's because they're planning on getting rid of him.
John Feliciano's 55. There's nobody on the active roster who's 56 or 58 or 59.
58 is Alex Barrett. Austin Bryant's 56. They're both on the practice squad.
Yeah, practice squad guys. Oddly enough, season savior Jesse Davis has not been given a number yet. So we'll keep an eye on that too.
Although Isaiah Winstead is wearing number 2, which also belongs to Diamador Lenore. So maybe you can double up with practice squad numbers. Is that a thing that's allowed?
I think clearly the whoever is in charge of updating the team's roster on its website is not
just falling behind.
Not fully locked in.
Was that one of Nick Cray's jobs? Vibes curator and roster updater.
Just leaving a massive void in his wake in Santa Clara. Yeah, I don't know. No, 92 is fine. I don't.
Yeah.
It would have been. It definitely would have been better to give him a single digit number.
The only saving grace here is that Reggie White wore number 92.
Yeah, it's fair.
Kinlaw didn't want to give it. People don't just give up their number in the NFL, because if you want to change your number, you have to pay for all the jerseys that have been made with your old number on it. It costs a lot of money.
The swaths of Javon Kinlaw jerseys that have to be ripped out of the stores, I'm sure.
Just children crying in the streets because their jersey is no longer relevant.
Demanding a refund.
Hey, if you see a 99 jersey at Levi Stadium, is it more likely to be an Alden Smith jersey or a Javon Kinlaw jersey?
Neither.
Oh. Well,
I mean, it's most likely the DeForest Buckner jersey.
Oh, it might be a Buck jersey. That's a good point.
It's definitely a Buck jersey. They sold a lot of Buckner jerseys. There was a time.
I don't think that. Ernie Chavez in the chat wants to know what number would work, and it appears based on the roster that no numbers. He's SOL.
96 would have been better than 92.
But chances were DOA.
Semantics at this point.
Yeah.
No, I watched his opening.
96 belongs to T.Y. McGill. Sorry, keep going.
Right. I watched his opening press conference. There wasn't a whole lot to glean from it, but it was interesting hearing him talk about, and this is not me putting on an Ohio State hat, but it was interesting hearing him talk about how Nick Bosa and him speak the same language, sort of dating back to speak the same language, not English, but speak the same language when it comes to pass rushing.
Sure.
Dating back to their time working with Larry Johnson. And, they were teammates, I think, for a year or two at Ohio State. I'd have to go back and double check. But Larry Johnson, I think, widely considered one of the best, if not the best, defensive line coaches in all of college football. And I think the track record of NFL guys that he's produced would speak to that as well. But, I do wonder, is he going to be able to hit the ground running pretty quickly here? Because, I mean, pass rushing is a pretty straightforward position. It's kind of like running back. Obviously, running back, you need to know the plays. You need to know which gaps you're attacking, all of those things. But, running back, the reason why so many rookie running backs come in and excel pretty quickly is because it's just, it's so instinctual. You're running with the ball. You've been running with the ball your whole life, more or less. I think there's a similar thing with pass rushers in that, like, if you can pass rush anywhere, or if you can pass rush in the NFL, you could do it for any team, right? There's
Yeah.
no there aren't really like system pass rushers in the same way that there are like system receivers, right? Like certain, you know,
Yeah. Well, there's schematic nuance with run stopping and stunts and stuff like that, but I think that's something that can be pretty easily picked up over a bye week. You
yeah,
know. So I'm
yeah.
not I'm
And he
not
was
super
there. I
worried
saw,
about Chase Young fitting right away. Like Randy Gregory had a sack in his first game. Come on.
yeah, I mean, I'm wondering, is it going to be something where like Chase Young is starting and playing 70% of the snaps, or and taking Cleveland Farrell, and I mean, what I would imagine Drake Jackson's going to be inactive,
Yeah, it's a
right?
tough
And
look
then
for DJ.
yeah, so I would think Trace Jackson's inactive, and I would kind of assume that Cleveland Farrell would be on the bench, like for Chase Young. Like Chase Young should probably get the vast majority. Like I don't think it's going to be one of those things where it's like he plays 20 snaps and only on third down in his first game. Like I think he's
No,
going to be
I
on
don't
the
think so.
field for all three downs.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that honestly by itself makes the 49ers better. Because Cleveland Farrell hasn't been bad. You just don't want him rushing the passer a majority of the snaps. But if you're limiting his snap count to 15 to 20 a game where he's coming on in relief and in, pass rush only situations or whatever it is, you feel a little bit better about his production now.
The Bravo
Versus
unit.
versus him being your starting primary defensive end opposite Nick Bosa. And same thing with Randy Gregory, same thing with Drake Jackson. Like as depth pieces, they're fine, but as like go-to pass rushers, you don't feel great.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. I don't think much of the Jaguars offensive line. I think the Niners, like if they can, ultimately, I think the biggest key to the game is going to be for them to force Trevor Lawrence to hold the ball a little bit so the pass rush can't get home.
Yeah.
Because if he's just getting, if he's hitting the top of his drop and getting the ball out, then the Niners pass rush is more than likely going to be completely negated. And then you're talking about the Niners, I think, relative weakness in the secondary. I think their biggest issue in the secondary right now, and we can talk about this later in the week because I got to run here in a second, but is it's more about like communication and like what the coverages are and everybody sort of being on the same page and everyone being in lockstep, right? Like it felt like everything was really connected under D'Amico Ryans, and that connection just doesn't really feel like it's there right now.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, biggest key to the game is going to be can the Niners force Trevor Lawrence to hold on to the ball a little bit longer than he's comfortable doing, and that to me is all about the secondary and is all about Steve Wilkes and is all about those guys playing well. So that's my initial thought.
That's what it comes down to. But it starts with the pass rush. Pass rush got to get home first, and that's up to Chris Kasurik and Steve Wilkes to figure out. So, all right, we'll look more at the Niners-Jags game coming up later in the week. Might have a midweek guest. Still working on that. But we're back to 3 a week here as we get you ready for 49ers-Jags on Sunday. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/@Candlestick Chronicles Podcast, or just search Candlestick Chronicles on YouTube. You'll see us right there at the top. Subscribe, like the video. Really appreciate that. And subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your pods. We would appreciate that as well. So until next time, everybody. Bye.
See you guys.